Ladies and gentlemen, we are starting. So I'd appreciate everyone clearing the front deck. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, please find your seats. We are going to start. I'm asking you not to be rude. I'm asking you to find your seats right now. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure, it is my honor to introduce the President of the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York for the 2026 Congressional Breakfast and our 50th anniversary, the Honorable David Moore.
Thank you, Howard. For logistics, isn't there an outer room where people can go and schmooze, etc.? Where is it? Up the stairs?
To the right.
To the right, up the stairs. For the Jews who want to schmooze, they can go up there this morning. But thank you, everybody, for being here. Good morning. I'm David Moore. I'm president of the JCRC of New York. And on behalf of Chairman Ben Golub, our CEO Mark Traeger, our past presidents Cheryl Fishbein and Janice Sorenstein, our officers, board, and the entire JCRC family, welcome to the annual Congressional Breakfast and the launch of our 50th anniversary year. You can clap for that. We are deeply grateful to our sponsors, Craig Newbark Philanthropies, UJA Federation of New York, Uber, and Kassir, whose partnership makes gatherings like this possible. Today, this morning, is about two things: legacy and leadership. For 50 years, JCRC New York has helped ensure that the Jewish community has a respected, responsible voice in the civic life of this city and state. A voice that builds relationships, strengthens democracy, and shows up not only for ourselves, but for the broader New York community. That work has always depended on partnership with elected officials, interfaith leaders, civic institutions, and people of goodwill across the city. Thus, it is with great pleasure and pride to offer you a special video presentation. This is JCRC New York. That was great. And we speak so often about partnership. Watching that video and looking around this room, I can say that our partnerships are alive and well. After all, at a breakfast event in New York on a bitterly cold February morning, the fact that this many people showed up on time may be the most bipartisan achievement of the morning. We'll see. We are honored to be joined by leaders from across the political spectrum and every level of government. Your presence here matters. It says that the Jewish community is not on the sidelines of New York's civic life. We are engaged, we are invested, we are part of the fabric of this city. I also want to recognize a special group with us today, our Bridges New York Fellows. These are emerging civic leaders working in government, policy, and advocacy who represent the next generation of public leadership in New York. Fellows, please stand so we can officially recognize you. Please stand up. The future is with us. Moments like this remind us that JCRC has never been about responding to challenges. It's about building the leadership and relationships that allow New York to thrive even in difficult times. As we begin this 50th anniversary year, we do so with pride in the generations who built this institutions, gratitude for the partners who stand with us today, and confidence in the leaders who will carry this work forward. We're fortunate that JCRC has such a strong and integral relationship with UJA Federation of New York, as well as a talented and experienced staff to help tackle the challenges we face and seize the opportunities we know are in front of us. It's now my pleasure to introduce someone who lives this mission every day, guiding JCRC New York with energy, conviction, and deep commitment to both Jewish community and the broader city we call home. When God needed a leader for the Jewish people to take them out of Egypt, he called on Moses, and Moses responded, "Hineni, here I am." I feel similarly when JCRC needed a new leader to step in and lead JCRC and all the challenges that we're now facing. We needed an experienced teacher, a former city council person, and an experienced city hall educator. Mark was there. That was his Hineni moment. Please join me in welcoming our CEO, Mark Traeger.
Let's give it up for President David Moore. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, come on. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are the bagels? If they're good, you could thank me. If they're not good, blame Howard Pollack. We love Howard. Good morning, and thank you, David, for your tremendous leadership and partnership. We chose to gather this morning at Park East Synagogue very intentionally. And thank you, Rabbi Schneier, for opening your doors and hosting us. Yes, let's give it up for Rabbi Schneier and the Park East community. And thank you to President David Moore and Chair Ben Golub for having the bold vision to move our breakfast here. Just a few months ago, this historic synagogue was targeted by a vile anti-Semitic protest, not because of anything it did wrong, but because it is Jewish, because it exists. So we are here today to say something clearly and without apology. We do not retreat in the face of hate. We show up, and we show up together. As JCRC marks its 50th anniversary, we do so at a serious moment for New York and for the Jewish community. Anti-Semitism is not abstract. For another consecutive year, more than half of all reported hate crimes in New York targeted Jews. We have seen vandalism, including over 70 swastikas scrawled in a Borough Park playground. Violent rhetoric turning into assaults, such as the vicious attack on a rabbi in Forest Hills. Hostility in education settings, and deeply troubling incidents in neighborhoods across the city, including a dangerous driver ramming his car into a storied Jewish institution at 770 Eastern Parkway in Crown Heights. These are not isolated incidents. They test Jewish safety, and they test the values of inclusion and pluralism that define New York. Across our city and our country, that fear is growing. It's the Jewish college student in New York concerned whether it's safe to openly wear their yarmulke. It's the immigrant student fearful of being questioned about their status on the way to school, or whether their loved ones will be home when they return. It's communities asking whether the government is doing enough to keep people safe. These are not separate struggles. Our safety is interconnected. That understanding is why JCRC New York was created over 50 years ago and why our mission is so urgent today. We see this interconnectedness when hate targets Jewish institutions, when communities of color are marginalized, when civil rights become conditional. We saw it recently when the owner of Bread's Bakery, a small business owner and an immigrant, was told that unless he disowned his Israeli heritage, that he would be targeted. Let me be absolutely clear. Jewish safety is not conditional. Civil rights are not conditional. Respect for the Constitution is not conditional. And the deep spiritual, cultural, and historical connection that most Jews have to Israel is not and will not be made conditional in this city or this country. And let's also be very clear that Bread's Bakery makes some of the best babka in New York. Am I right about that? Just as it is unacceptable to tell a synagogue what it can and cannot teach about making Aliyah, immigrating to Israel, it is unacceptable to demand that Jews disavow or hide who they are in order to be deemed worthy of safety or belonging. That is not progress. That is discrimination, full stop. The last time we gathered for this congressional breakfast, we were still advocating for the release of the hostages held in Gaza. Thank God they are all home, because we were never whole until we all came home. And we pray for Israelis, for Palestinians, and all who call the Middle East home, for a future of peace, dignity, and security. But moral clarity abroad must be matched by moral clarity here at home. And here is the hard truth that we all must confront. We cannot arrest, defund, or deport our way out of hatred. Law enforcement matters, accountability matters, but hate is learned, and that means it can be unlearned. As a former teacher, I believe deeply that education is one of our most powerful tools to combat anti-Semitism and hate before they take root. That's why JCRC New York, in partnership with UJ Federation and so many other great partners and leaders, we helped launch with public schools the Hidden Voices, Jewish Americans, a new K-12 curricular resource in New York City schools that it ensures that students learn about Jewish history, identity, and positive contributions beyond just moments of tragedy, because the Jewish community, we are more than just anti-Semitism. Am I right about that? We have to teach our kids how we've positively shaped this nation as well. We're also piloting student-to-student programs, bringing Jewish students directly into classrooms to share their lived experiences, because empathy is built through human connection, not through slogans and not through TikTok. And in this past year, working with UJ Federation and our partners, we helped advance a measure signed by Governor Hochul requiring Title VI coordinators at all New York colleges to strengthen training and accountability to combat anti-Semitism and other forms of hate. As we enter the next 50 years, JCRC will continue to serve as a trusted civic partner, combating anti-Semitism, strengthening Jewish life, and building bridges across all of our communities. That work succeeds only because of the partnership of folks in this room, elected officials, leaders, advocates, and supporters who understand that the health of the Jewish community and the health of New York City are inseparable. Thank you for standing with us. We will not forget it, and we will always stand by your side as well. Before I pass the mic, I encourage all of you to check out the preview of our 50th anniversary exhibition in the lobby upstairs before you leave, which highlights our past and more recent activities. An expanded version will be displayed at UJ Federation's 7th floor art gallery beginning next week, and will be featured at our May 11th gala honoring Merrill Tisch and our very own Warren Jupiter Weiss. Yes, let's get up for Warren Jupiter Weiss. JCRC is also proceeding forward with a street co-naming request to commemorate our 50th anniversary. Thank you, Speaker Menon, for your help with that. Stay tuned on the location and ceremony. These are just some of the ways we're marking half a century of advocating for rights, interests, and values of the New York Jewish community. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce a wonderful partner, a key partner in this work, Hindi Pupko, the Senior Vice President of Community Strategy for UJ Federation of New York.
Good morning, everyone. Please join me in thanking Mark. That was a beautiful speech, Mark, and what an excellent way to start this morning. On behalf of all of my colleagues and lay leaders at UJ Federation, let me say thank you for being here, and in particular to our elected officials. Your presence here today serves as testimony to your commitment to and partnership with our New York Jewish community. We do not take your presence for granted. Thank you, thank you. Some of you know that I've been working in this field for about 20 years. And I have to say, in the past 20 years, the world has changed right in front of our very eyes. As shocking as it may seem, study after study tells us that young people who are known for their idealism and acceptance, but it's younger Americans who are more anti-Semitic than older Americans. And what's also new about New York today is that it used to be that we all knew someone, right? We knew someone who experienced anti-Semitism. We would say, oh, I just got a call from my cousin in Paris, or I spoke to a student on campus. But what's new, and I'm not going to ask everyone to raise their hand, but I could promise you that most Jews in this room have their own story. It's not someone else's story. Some of you have heard my story. On one of the first Friday nights after 10/7, walking home on West End Avenue with my husband and 3 kids, we pass a group of teenagers. One yells back, should we kidnap the boy or the girl? And we're having conversations with our kids that our grandparents and great-grandparents had, and we never imagined that those would become our conversations too. And we know that from Bondi Beach to Washington, D.C. to Boulder, hateful and demonizing rhetoric against Israel leads to violence against Jews everywhere. But the truth is, as difficult and as challenging as the past 2 some odd years have been, we always knew that we were not alone. And your presence here is testimony of that. And what's also true, and we all need to know this, is that both UJA and JCRC always ensured that even though at times it felt like the world turned their back on us, we never turned our back on the world. Never. We never betrayed our values. JCRC continues to build bridges, even though in certain times it's gotten a little bit harder. UJA continues to be the largest philanthropic supporter of social safety net services for all New Yorkers. We do it because it's who we are, and we will always remain who we are. Everyone in this room wakes up every day thinking about how to ensure that this community, that New York remains a place where not just Jews feel safe, but where we all feel safe and where we all can thrive. Thank you again to JCRC for making this work possible, and to all of you for being here today.
Thank you, Hindi. We're so grateful for your partnership and the partnership of all your colleagues at UJ Federation. I'm Ben Golub, Chair of the Board of the JCRC of New York. I'm delighted to be in the presence of so many distinguished members of Congress. I doubt you can find any other place outside of Washington where you'll get so many in the same room at the same time. This is a testament to the leadership and staff of the organization I am so proud to be a part of, the JCRC of New York. As David Moore noted, we are amazingly thrilled to launch our 50th anniversary celebration here. I am so proud of what this organization has accomplished and what we look forward to doing in the next half century. We do it with optimism, not because the work will be easy, but because we know the stakes of getting it not done is way too dangerous. We are confronting a level of anti-Semitism and a political culture that has been mealy-mouthed and calling it for what it is, thus giving license to the haters and the perpetrators of violence. And while we are a community rooted in history animated by responsibility and driven by love and hope, we are also a community that has learned the lessons of history. And we will not let assaults against our community become normalized. It is not an accident that we're having this event at Park East Synagogue. It's a lovely place as it is. But we want to make a statement that it will not be normalized. We will not forget and we will not tolerate that type of behavior in the city. We will call it out again and again and again until it stops. JCRC partners with the Israeli consulate on many issues which reaffirm the bond between the people of the state of Israel and the people of New York. I will now introduce greetings from Israeli Consul General Ophir Akunis. Unfortunately, Consul General Akunis could not be here today because he has official duties elsewhere, but we are fortunate that the Consul General has provided us with a video presentation. We're also gratified that Deputy Consul General of Israel, Tzach Sar, is here representing him. We look forward to again demonstrating the unbreakable bonds between the people of Israel and New York at the JCRC's Israel Day Parade, organized in conjunction with UJ Federation, which takes place this year on May 31st. If your organization wishes to march, see Howard Pollack, and please do march because numbers matter. We count the people, and it's making a statement again to the New York community, to the Jewish community, and I think to the world, that the love of Israel and the bonds between the countries is unbreakable.
Good morning, Shalom lekulam. This is Ambassador Ophir Akunis, Consul General of Israel in New York. I'm sorry I could not be with you all in person, but on behalf of the State of Israel, I wanted to share my deepest gratitude to the elected officials who have stood shoulder to shoulder with the Jewish community during a tough time. To JCRC President David Moore, Chair of the Board Bennett Golub, and the entire Board of Directors for your dedication to the Jewish community, as well as CEO Mark Traeger and his team for celebrating your 50-year anniversary and who work tirelessly every day to ensure that the Jewish community is supported and are protected. My friends, we are living through a tough time where the campaign to separate the Jewish state from the Jewish community is at an all-time high. Unfortunately, as we warned, this campaign has led to an increase of violent anti-Semitic attacks. Just this past week, a driver tried to ram down the doors of the Chabad headquarters in Crown Heights, and the rabbi was physically attacked in Queens just because he looks Jewish. We have seen attacks on the streets and on the subways. My friends, I am grateful to many of you who have stood shoulder to shoulder with our community and have condemned the anti-Semitic attacks. But I want to be clear. This campaign to separate the Jewish community from the Jewish state will fail. You can't say you are not anti-Semitic, but are anti the Jewish state of Israel, the homeland of the Jewish people. We can't stay silent because we know where silence has led us in the past. My friends, we are two nations who share the same values, democratic values, and have seen our democracy being tested, especially over the past 2 years. Thousands of well-organized young people have chanted, "Death to America, death to Israel," right here in New York City. This has been an Iranian slogan since 1979. Well, I am a bigger supporter of freedom of speech, but this is not freedom of speech. This is freedom of hate. Hate America? Hate Israel? Right here? It is hard to believe. No, it is not a matter of opinion to stand proud in supporting Hamas, the cruel terror organization who committed the most barbaric massacre in our era since September 11th. Whoever stands with them supports terror. Now, I want to ask them, where were you in the last 2 weeks during the Tehran massacre? We didn't see them chanting genocide while the Iranian regime butchered their own citizens. Their silence tells us all we need to know, that they prefer the Ayatollahs rather than our democracies. My friends, as leaders of our respective countries, we must continue to stand together against anti-Semitism, against these ideologies, and not let them use our democracy to destroy it. We must never stop sharing the truth and be proud of our values. Let's all be on the right side of history, with the United States of America, with the State of Israel, the ancient homeland of the Jewish people. God bless America, and God bless the State of Israel.
It's now my pleasure to introduce a video greeting from our Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. Senator Gillibrand grew up in upstate New York in a family committed to public service. Her grandmother worked in the New York State Legislature at a time when few women did, and was also a trailblazing organizer. Her father was a public defender, and her mother was a lawyer who taught Kirsten about the importance of representing those without a powerful voice of their own. They inspired Kirsten's passion for public service. In the Senate, Senator Gillibrand is a senior member of the Armed Services Committee. In addition, she is a ranking member of the Senate Aging Committee, where she's working on bringing down the cost of prescription drugs, protecting Social Security and Medicare, guarding against financial scams, and making sure that every American can age with dignity. Senator Gillibrand is a true friend of the JCRC and the entire Jewish community. It is my great pleasure to introduce video greetings from her. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and I'm excited to send greetings to all of you gathered today to celebrate the 50th anniversary of JCRC New York. For half a century, JCRC has been a source of strength and connection. You cultivate understanding and collective action, and the work you do elevates the role of the Jewish community in New York and beyond. In these challenging times, the role JCRC fills is more essential than ever. JCRC builds relationships that serve to advance a vibrant, connected, and secure Jewish community in New York and around the world. I am grateful to each and every one of you for your dedication, your service, and your philanthropy. As always, you have my commitment that I will do everything in my power to ensure that Jewish communities everywhere continue to flourish, and I look forward to continue our work together to achieve our shared goals. Best wishes for a wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you. We thank Senator Gillibrand and the Consul General for sharing their greetings. Shh. And ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to introduce a remarkable spiritual leader and certainly someone that we greatly appreciate for opening his doors here today. Rabbi Arthur Schneier is a Holocaust survivor whose life has been devoted to transforming the lessons of history into a mission of moral courage, interfaith understanding, and religious freedom. And his tireless work has earned him international recognition and respect as a bridge builder and moral leader on the global stage. Please join me in welcoming Rabbi Arthur Schneier, who opened his doors for us to hold this special occasion today.
Welcome to Park East Synagogue. With my apologies for the Schneier weather. Those of you who speak German, Schnee means snow, okay? We have it. Mark, leadership of the JCRC, distinguished leaders, Mark, and my Hungarian lunchman, congressmen, all distinguished. What we're saying today is Am Yisrael Chai. Even though we had that horrible experience in November, an ugly anti-Semitic attack in front of a synagogue, which brought back the nightmare of my seeing Kristallnacht, my synagogue, burn. When firemen and policemen stood by rejoicing. And that was the beginning. It was demonization first. The Stürmer, every day. Jews go to Palestine. Concentration camps, Dachau and Buchenwald. And then my entire family perished in Auschwitz among the millions, the 1.5 million children of the Jewish people. I survived in Hungary because of a courageous, daring diplomat, Swiss diplomat like Wallenberg, Karl Lutz, risked his life to save Jews. Portuguese, Spanish, Vatican Nuncio in Budapest. They tried. So we must not remain silent. We have to be proud. And yesterday, we sang Shabbat Shirah, Song of Triumph. And there was one leader, Nachshon, who did not hesitate to make decisions. And each one of us have to make decisions, critical decisions. And I want to single you out, Mark, because you are the Nachshon of the community. Making decisions that are difficult, but you're making them. And I think this is the challenge that each one of us have. Make decisions for United States, God bless America. Make decisions for Medinat Israel. Make decisions for revival of Jewish life. Revival of Jewish life. Instill pride to the young people in our midst. And finally, I want to salute all of you who are making sure that what happened to the Darky synagogue, that happened in so many other synagogues, Jackson, Mississippi, and so forth, will not happen again. The buffer zone. So I'm counting on every city and state official to establish the rule, not abolishing freedom of speech, but protection of every house of worship. Every house of worship, be it a synagogue, be it a church, be it a mosque, whatever. And that should be an easy one. God bless you all. Stay warm. And again, my signature, united we prevail, divided we fail. United we prevail, okay? And that's what JCRC is all about. United, the Jewish community. And this is what UJA is all about. United Jewish appeal in order to further the values we all cherish, the Torah values of humanity. God bless you all. Thank you. You just extended my life by a few years, okay? Anyhow, I have the Austrian Minister of Social Welfare with a delegation coming to see me in my office. You're invited to join and meet her, but anyhow. But one thing I want to make sure, you find that Germany, Austria today, in terms of protection, you find that in history, friends become enemies and enemies become friends. And what we have to do is gain enemies and allies, which we have. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi, for those inspiring words. And during the course of the breakfast, I will be acknowledging additional elected officials. I'm just going to start just very fast acknowledgments with citywide, borough-wide, and I'll work my way to local. I just want to acknowledge we have in attendance the first Jewish City Council speaker in New York City history, Julie Menon, who has been off to a great start fighting anti-Semitism for the community. Thank you, Speaker. Also, the co-chair of the Mark Caucus, Comptroller Mark Levine, who has great job. Thank you, Mark. Well, I want to also acknowledge the dynamic Manhattan Borough President, Brad Hoylman-Siegel. Thank you, Brad. The outstanding Bronx District Attorney, Darcel Clark. The outstanding, from my home borough, Brooklyn District Attorney, Eric Gonzalez. And the one and only outstanding from the great borough of Queens, Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz. We're going to have more acknowledgments. Please bear with me. But folks, as someone who is a first-generation American from Brooklyn, we learn to respect different opinions and appreciate other cultures. And so we expect a courtesy and a decorum here at this program at all times. If you'd like to have a conversation with a friend or a colleague, you could please leave the room and move upstairs towards our overflow room. If we experience disagreements that moves into being discourteous, we will be asked for folks to leave the breakfast. Now, having said that, please know that your presence here means a lot to us, to JCRC New York, and in our community. So, as we did in our last few breakfasts, we have compiled questions from members of Congress, and we thank them for their attendance and their patience, based upon items from our communal agenda that also reflect questions that were sent to us from our guests in advance of today's breakfast. After welcoming the members of Congress, we'll ask them a question. We greatly value their input and look forward to hearing from our elected officials. And again, I ask folks to show courtesy and respect to our esteemed members of Congress. And it's my pleasure to begin with the congressional presentations with Congressmember Dan Goldman, introducing him, one of our chief sponsors of today's breakfast, Mr. Craig Newmark. Thank you.
Hey, folks. I'm a sponsor of the Congressional Breakfast, but I'm best known for starting something called Craigslist. These days, I'm doing full-time philanthropy. They don't need me anymore at the company. And my great focus is on helping people protect themselves and helping people protect the country. This includes stuff like supporting military families, that's through Blue Star Families, also helping support networks of veterans, that's through the Bob Woodruff Foundation. I'm also supporting the fight against cyber attacks and scams. The scam fight and related crime fighting is something I've been doing for over 25 years. I take this stuff personally, and I'm planning on getting pretty loud about it. I don't want to forget the seriously unsung heroes who are a big part of that, some of whom are here, like from NYPD and the Capitol Hill Police, who I have worked with intermittently over that period. I'm also heavily supporting those efforts which protect the country's Jewish communities by gathering threat intelligence online regarding who is seriously threatening us. It is not good news when someone scans the dark web and they tell you that some crazy guy is planning on attacking you. This includes the JCRC Community Security Initiative, CSI. These are folks who are going online undercover to figure out what's going on. They are seriously risking their safety in doing so. But here today, I want to introduce my Congressman, Dan Goldman, who's representing the 10th District in Lower Manhattan and Brooklyn, where I've actually lived for several years. He's raised in a family with a genuine immigrant story. Congressman Goldman has spoken about his values like Tikkun Olam, the responsibility to repair the world. With rising anti-Semitism, he's been a clear and consistent voice in Congress. He works across party lines, and he works to protect Jewish communities and also to strengthen Holocaust education, because a lot of the kids these days don't know that it happened or don't believe that it happened. Dan is a strong supporter of Israel's right to exist in peace and security, and has always approached Jewish issues with thoughtfulness, with integrity, and with conviction. Please join me in welcoming my Congressman, Dan Goldman. And I'm supposed to start with a question now. I really am out of my depth here. Congressman Goldman, Dan, as co-chair of the House Bipartisan Task Force for Combating Anti-Semitism, you've really got your hands full as anti-Semitic incidents continue to rise. My deal involves your public record on Israel. Dan, you've said you strongly support Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state, and also that a two-state solution is the best way to ensure security and self-determination for both Israelis and Palestinians. Given the ongoing challenges to achieving that speech, what specific steps do you think Congress should take now to advance a viable two-state solution while ensuring Israel's security? I'm going to sit down now.
Thank you very much, Craig, for the great introduction and all your work here. Thank you to the terrific leaders of JCRC, UJA Federation here, David, Ben, Mark. It's really a pleasure always to come here to see so many familiar faces and so many faces from all around the city. There are too many of my colleagues to acknowledge, but I always do appreciate that this is a bipartisan event. So I'm not going to mention all of my Democratic colleagues in the city council, the state level, and in Congress, but I do want to say hello to our Republican friend, Mike Lawler. You asked a question. I actually think right now is perhaps the greatest opportunity for a peaceful and secure Israel since 2000. And the ceasefire agreement that was entered into last October and that is still pushing forward now, I think, given a little boost by the return of Ron Gavili's remains, the last hostage remaining in Gaza, which is so vitally important. And there's a pathway here, and the pathway is going to have to include a significant investment, financial, governance, security from Arab states in the Middle East. I do not believe the U.S. and Israel can orchestrate this alone, but the expansion of the Abraham Accords, the investment of Arab states around the Middle East is the path forward for a secure Israel and an independent entity for the Palestinian civilians. So there's some optimism that has arisen, I think, out of the travesty of October 7th and what has happened
since then. We struggle a little bit sometimes here to see that because of this rise in anti-Semitism that has followed the worst terrorist attack, the worst genocidal attack on Israel since the Holocaust. We've all struggled, I think, to deal with that reaction to such a horrific attack against Israel. I certainly have struggled. I was in Tel Aviv on October 7th with my family and dealing with some of the traumatic fallout, especially for my kids. But what we must do is exactly what JCRC does better than anyone, which is bring people together from all sorts of different backgrounds to unify against hate. We Jews know that there may be anti-Semitism and hate may start with anti-Jewish sentiment, but it never ends there. And as democracies struggle, as democracies live on such fragile foundations, we know as Jews that our security and our safety depends on a democracy with equal rights, with civil rights, with social justice, the kind that Jews have fought for in this country for so many years. And what we do is, and this is why I love coming to this event every year, is to see so many people from different backgrounds. Because hate is hate, and it may be Jews today, but it will be someone else tomorrow. And what we need is to continue to rebuild and invest in alliances of groups that have traditionally suffered from persecution and discrimination. It's why I got into public service after studying the Jewish involvement in the civil rights movement when I was in college. Jews were on the front line of that issue, and Jews have been on the front line of so many civil rights issues. And that's the kind of example that we believe in and that we want to share with so many of our friends who have also suffered from the same kind of discrimination. And so I'm optimistic that through that work, through building bridges, led by JCRC's incredible work, that we will be able to unify against hate, because that is simply what this is. And we get into a lot of semantics, but Zionism, at least to me as I grew up, is the right of Jews to have a state of their own in their ancestral homelands. It is not to the exclusion of others having a state. And therefore, to me, when I hear anti-Zionism, it just means that Jews alone should not have a state of their own, one in the world, formed in the aftermath of the Holocaust, when Jews were still not even permitted to go to many countries, including the United States, which is why our asylum laws were implemented. So when you say anti-Zionism, you're essentially just saying that Jews don't have a right to a state, where certainly plenty of other religions have many states that they call home. And that is why, in this day and age, as I stand here, I believe anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. It is not a protest against the Israeli government, which everybody should be free to engage in, just like we engage in protest or opposition here at home. And this government is not synonymous with the United States, and the Israeli government is not synonymous with the state of Israel. And our path forward is to recognize that in a democracy, we are allowed and encouraged to speak up. We are allowed to make our voices heard. And then we have elections. And maybe the government changes or maybe it doesn't, but the people get an opportunity to speak. That does not mean that the United States should not exist, and it does not mean that Israel should not exist. And so as we move forward, standing up for the right of Israel to exist as a Jewish state and standing against hate of all kinds, I know those of us in this room, those of us outside, others outside of this room, can join together in those simple principles. And we will move past this, we will persevere, we will persist, and we will once again thrive without feeling the threat of hate. Thank you. I would love to call the leaders of JCRC up here, David Moore, Ben Golub, Mark Traeger. I have a proclamation. Craig, come on up. Proclamation to the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York on their 50th anniversary. I hereby recognize and commend the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York on the occasion of their 50th anniversary and extend my deepest appreciation for its decades of leadership, service, and partnership. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you,
Here,
Congressman.
Mark, this better go in your office.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
prominently displayed.
Yes, you're off. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for everything. I'll be in touch. Laura, you're on.
Hi, I'm Lauren Jupiter Weiss, and I'm a member of the Executive Committee of JCRC New York, and I'm a co-chair of the Development Committee. It is my honor to introduce Congressman Tom Suozzi, who represents New York's 3rd Congressional District in the House of Representatives. In Washington, he serves on the House Ways and Means Committee, focusing on tax, oversight, and economic issues, and he is co-chair of the Bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus, where he works across party lines to find practical solutions for the challenges facing our nation. It is my great honor to welcome up Congressman Tom Suozzi. Congressman, as you know, the last hostage, Ron Gvili, was recovered and returned to Israel recently. Given your strong support for Israel's security and your call for the defeat and disarmament of Hamas as a prerequisite for peace, how do you envision the United States advancing a sustainable peace process that protects Israel? And given the implementation of the President's 20-point Gaza peace plan and the Board of Peace, what role should the United States play in ensuring that this framework leads to lasting peace, protects civilians, and addresses the legitimate security concerns of the people of the State of Israel?
Okay, let's hear for Lauren for doing a great job. Good morning. Good morning. And bruchim habayim. Welcome and blessings to everybody here. Let's hear it again for Rabbi Schneier. It was very impressive to hear you this morning, Rabbi. It's always great to see you. I think everybody knows that my support for Israel is 100% unequivocal, and it will never fade. And when thinking about the future of the region and the role of the United States of America, we've got to continue to play a central role in anything going forward. It was 24 years ago that I was brought to Israel by JCRC. Michael Miller hosted that trip. Adriana Spayat was on that trip with me as well. And on that trip, I had the great honor of meeting Shimon Peres. And he described the two-state solution to me, which I didn't understand. I was the county executive in Nassau County. I really was not well-schooled in the different issues. And we went to Israel. It was during the Second Intifada after the massacre in Hebron. There was nobody there when we were there except for us. And I think that most people would love to see a two-state solution. There's been no confidence for some time now whatsoever that we could build a two-state solution because there was no confidence that there was a Palestinian partner. And for there to be a future, it's going to require the United States, along with other partners that we're bringing in now, to try and build something that will ensure Israel's integrity and security, because it can't happen without that happening. There has to be a vehicle by which people can go to school, and they can get their garbage picked up, and they can have water running, and they can have sewers running. And, you know, if you think about it now, in Gaza, people haven't gone to school for 3 years, not even a hospital. It's not sustainable. So there has to be a state, a government, as Shimon Peres described it to me. He said, you know, the Israeli people are very passionate people. He said for every 10 people, for every one issue, if you have 10 people, you'll have 10 separate opinions. But there's only one gun. If the Israelis say we're going to do something and somebody violates the promise that has been made by the state of Israel, the government will hold them accountable. The police, the IDF, someone will hold them accountable. The Palestinians didn't have that and don't have that. They say, well, we're going to make a deal, but then somebody violates the deal. And at the time, Yasser Arafat would say, it wasn't me. It was Hezbollah. It wasn't me. It was Hamas. It wasn't me. It was them over there. Because the Palestinians are passionate people. Shimon Peres said, they're our cousins. They're Semites. He said they're very passionate people. For every one issue, there's 10 separate opinions. But there's also 10 guns. There's nobody to hold them accountable. So the United States has to play a role in building this partnership, very much along the lines of what Dan Goldman was saying, to hold people accountable. It's not something that could happen tomorrow. Probably couldn't happen in the next 5 years. But it's got to be that there is a state in place that holds people accountable for whatever agreement there is. You can't make an agreement with terrorists. You can't make an agreement with some loose group. You have to have something that's going to hold people accountable. Very hard, very ambitious, very much off in the horizon, but it's something that we should be aspiring to. So I would say that I want to congratulate the JCRC on 50 years. It's amazing what they've done to educate people, including me. And Tom Lantos, who is a Holocaust survivor and a member of Congress, had a very famous quote that I try to use often, which is that the veneer of civilization is paper thin. We are its guardians, and we cannot rest. We have to constantly work to try and educate people. You see the anti-Semitism that's taking place, the hate that's taking place, the division that's happening generally in America. Is everybody so much more rotten than they've ever been before? Are they so much more hateful than they've ever been before? We have to understand the systemic things that are happening in our society that are pulling us apart from each other. Whether it's politicians pandering to their base in primaries just to please a small group of people, feeding divisive language. Whether it's social media that rewards extremism. The crazier, nuttier things you say, the more likes you get, the more follows you get, the more small dollar donations you get. Whether it's cable news that just promotes the echo chamber for the small group of people watching it. 350 million people in America, only 4 million people watch the most watched Fox News show. Only 1.5 million people, 2 million people watch the most watched MS show. But they're giving just a particular message. And the most important thing we have to be conscious of anything else, are foreign adversaries. The Russians, the Chinese Communist Party, Iran, North Korea, are constantly using our social media and our freedom, and they are feeding us messages to get us to hate each other. They cannot defeat us economically. They cannot defeat us militarily. They see our greatest weakness, which we believe is our greatest strength, is our diversity. So they try and play up our diversity, and they try and get us to hate each other on a regular basis. They take an issue where there's truth to it, but they blow up both sides, and they give one message to this group and another message to that group, and get everybody madder and madder at each other on a regular basis. So whether it's Black Lives Matter versus Blue Lives Matter, they'll pump up one message over here and one message over there. They don't care. They just want us mad at each other. They take evangelicals and transgender, they pump up this message here, that message there, and they pump it up.
Israel, Hamas, they pop up one message to the Jews and another message to the young people and the Muslims, and they try and get everybody to hate each other. We can't fall for it. And that's why the education that the JCRC does to educate people, to protect the veneer of civilization that is paper thin, is so important. I stand 100% with you in everything you do. Congratulations on your 50th anniversary, and thank you for having me here this morning.
Thank you very much.
I had a citation, but I left it in the car.
No worries.
Thank you.
Gus, you're on.
Good morning. My name is Gus Lipman, and I'm a board member of JCRC New York. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Congressman Mike Lawler, who represents New York's 17th Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives. Congressman Lawler has built a reputation as a pragmatic and results-driven leader, dedicated to strengthening our economy, ensuring public safety, and serving the families of the Hudson Valley with integrity. Congressman Lawler serves on the Financial Services Committee and the Foreign Affairs Committee, where he focuses on policies that promote prosperity, security, and global engagement. Please welcome an ally and friend to the Jewish community, Congressman Mike Lawler. Congressman Lawler, the 17th District is home to one of the largest Jewish populations in the country. You've worked tirelessly to lead bipartisan efforts like the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act to codify the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, IHRA, working definition of anti-Semitism into federal law to better protect Jewish students and communities under Title VI. What steps are you taking to address any concerns about how this definition is applied in practice while ensuring it effectively combats campus anti-Semitism and hate?
Well, thank you, Gus, and good morning. It's nice to be here with all of you. Rabbi Schneier, thank you for opening up your synagogue to all of us. As I look out in the audience, I see many of my Democratic colleagues in state government, and I feel like I'm at a meeting of the Democratic State Committee. And I know you're going to be meeting this week, so if you're interested in a cross endorsement, let me know. I mean, possibility. I know some of you looking at me may look and say, kind of looks like Zoran Mandani. Now, Zoran and I served together in the state assembly. We used to play poker every week up in Albany. We got along on a lot of things. But on an issue of combating anti-Semitism and support of the state of Israel, there are strong differences. And I think one of the things that I have spent my time in Congress focused on is strengthening the U.S.-Israel relationship and being unapologetic about it. The fact is, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. Israel is not an oppressor. Israel has not committed a genocide. Israel is a beacon of hope, of opportunity, and of freedom. And I am proud to be a Zionist. And let us be clear, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism because it is rooted in Jew hatred. It is rooted in the hatred of a Jewish state. You have dozens upon dozens of Muslim and Islamic states, and nobody says a word. But the one Jewish state, there is fierce opposition to. Why? What is that rooted in? It's not rooted in opposition to their democratic government, which, by the way, Muslims serve in. There's only one Muslim state in the world that has Jewish representation, that's Bahrain. But yet everybody is outraged over the Jewish state. And that manifests itself in anti-Semitism here in the United States. It is something we must combat, whether it occurs on the left or on the right. I don't care if it's Ilhan Omar and AOC or Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. It must be condemned on all sides. And the fact is, the Jewish state, the state of Israel, is our greatest ally in the world. And so long as I serve in Congress, and so long as I serve as chair of the Middle East and North Africa Subcommittee on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Israel will always have my support, and I will not relent, I will not yield, we will not stop sending arms, we will not stop sending money, we will not stop sending support. There are a lot of challenges facing us today. And a lot of those challenges are interconnected. When you look at foreign policy, it does not occur in a vacuum or a silo. The fact is, the relationship between Iran, Russia, China, Venezuela, North Korea, it is all meant to undermine and destabilize the United States, Israel, Europe, and the free world. And over the last year, President Trump has focused almost exclusively on breaking up that cabal. He made a decision that presidents of both parties said they would undertake for decades. They said Iran could not have a nuclear weapon, that we would never allow them to get to the precipice of using a nuclear weapon against Israel. And yet what we saw was hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of ballistic missiles launched at Israel, trying to destroy the Jewish state. We saw a terrorist attack on October 7th, funded by Iran and its illicit oil trade with China. President Trump took decisive action and struck Iran's nuclear facilities, and I, for one, am 100% behind that decision. It was the right decision, and I support it every time. When you look at what we have been able to do, we have been able to cripple this network. I led the effort on going after Iran's illicit oil trade, putting crippling sanctions in place. Their economy is in teeters. You look at what has happened. Hamas and Hezbollah have been largely decimated, and Bibi Netanyahu takes a lot of criticism. But the decisions made by his administration and the IDF with the support of the United States, it is what has put the Middle East on the verge of peace and prosperity for generations. When we look at what is happening right now, every hostage has been returned home. Every single one, living and deceased, including New Yorkers and Americans. Those families who many of us in Congress have gotten to know, they finally have closure. They finally have peace. And that was not something that was guaranteed. That was a result of the actions that this administration took and this Congress took to get a peace agreement. And there is still a lot of work ahead. But it is the responsibility of the United States to lead, to bring our Arab partners together, to work with the United States and Israel to ensure lasting peace. We want the Palestinian people to be free. We want them not to live in oppression. Israel is not the oppressor, it is Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, and they must be defeated and destroyed. And so we will continue to lead, and we will get it done, and we will bring about peace and prosperity and greater cooperation with Saudi Arabia, with Bahrain, with the UAE, with Jordan, with Egypt. And we will ensure normalization between Arab states and the one Jewish state, the state of Israel. And the way to do that, in addition to economic cooperation, is by combating anti-Semitism, and we must do that here in the United States. It's why we must pass the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act and root out anti-Semitism in our K-12 system and our higher education system. It must end, and it must end now. So I will continue to lead on these issues and work collaboratively with my colleagues in government, Republicans and Democrats, who want to bring this to an end. We stand with the Jewish people of New York, of the United States, and around the globe. On behalf of the United States House of Representatives and the people that I represent, one of the largest concentration of Jews in the United States of America in the 17th Congressional District of New York, and I see some of my constituents here today. I just want to thank everybody at JCRC for the great work that has been done for 50 years of dedicated commitment to uplifting the Jewish people, to standing up against the scourge of anti-Semitism, and supporting a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. And so, Mark, Ben, David, and everybody at JCRC, I'm proud to present to you a proclamation of appreciation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarika Sierra, and I've had the opportunity to work with, collaboratively, the JCRC for many years. I've recently, at the request of our new fabulous CEO, Mark Traeger, had the opportunity to join the board of JCRC, and I'm really proud to be a member of this board. It's my honor today to introduce our next guest, who represents New York's 8th Congressional District, which includes parts of Brooklyn and Queens. I've known Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries from the days that he was in the Assembly, and he's always been a steadfast supporter of Israel, and we're so proud today that he is the highest-ranking Democrat in the House of Representatives. Leader Jeffries has consistently demonstrated his commitment to the Jewish people by forcefully condemning anti-Semitism, always supporting Holocaust remembrance and education, and standing firmly for Israel's right to exist in peace and security. It is my absolute honor to welcome up a true friend of the Jewish community, Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. And I have a question for you today. Leader Jeffries, the not-for-profit security grant program is one of JCRC and UJA's most important federal priority. It is essential to the Jewish community's ability to enhance our physical security by providing greater access to resources that will keep our communities safe. Given the rising threats against houses of worship and Jewish community centers, can you tell us this morning how Congress is working to expand and improve these federal security grant programs, what steps you are supporting to ensure Jewish institutions can access these resources quickly and effectively, and lastly, the amount of money in this program is so sorely small and lacking. Will you support increasing the amount of money in this program to at least $500 million to keep pace with the escalating security needs in our community? Thank you.
Sorry, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. What an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you, so many incredible leaders and friends who are here, and of course to David and Mark and Ben. Appreciate your leadership for the Jewish community, but really on behalf of all communities throughout the great city of New York. To all of my colleagues in government who are here, distinguished members of the Congressional delegation, state legislators, citywide officials, of course, DAs and members of the City Council, and of course, to Controller Mark Levine and Speaker Julie Menin. It has a nice ring to it. And to be with all of you on the 50th anniversary, let me first just say congratulations on this milestone accomplishment, or as we say in Brooklyn, mazel tov. But of course, we gather here at this 50th celebration, this moment in time at a critical juncture for the country, but certainly a critical juncture, a crossroads for the Jewish community here in New York City, throughout the country and the world. And that has been put into further sharp realization by the tragic events of the last week, the tragic event, unacceptable, unconscionable, un-American event that occurred at this very synagogue several months ago. And so we all must dedicate ourselves, recommit ourselves, as was suggested in the question, to ensuring that we promote and protect the safety and the security of the Jewish community, which has been under assault in ways that are completely and totally unacceptable. And one of the many ways we can do it is certainly to secure increased support for the not-for-profit security grant program, currently scheduled to be funded at about $300 million per year. And I think it's fair to say that House Democrats, certainly the New York Congressional delegation, certainly myself, fully and completely support an increase to at least $500 million, as is being advocated by JCRC of New York. And I would add that if my colleagues on the other side of the aisle can, in the legislation that was passed last July, in addition to cutting Medicaid by the largest amount in American history, or even ripping food out of the mouths of hungry children with the largest cut to SNAP in American history, and in that very same bill, give the Department of Homeland Security an additional $191 billion, including $75 billion for ICE. If that can happen, then the least that we can do is ensure that this vital security grant program is funded by hundreds of millions of dollars more to keep the Jewish community and every other community safe. And I'm hopeful That's not a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. It's got to be an American issue, because that is what combating anti-Semitism should be all about. Now, as you all know, I have the honor and privilege of representing an incredibly diverse congressional district, 9th most African-American district, I think, as many of you know, as Mark certainly knows, 9th most African-American district in the country, and the 16th most Jewish. It's an exquisite combination, y'all. And I'm very thankful for it. Certainly the case that within the Jewish communities that I'm privileged to represent, I represent the entirety of the gorgeous mosaic within the Jewish community. The secular Jewish community, the Reformed Jewish community, the conservative Jewish community, the Orthodox Jewish community, the modern Orthodox Jewish community, the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community, and of course, certainly, my good friend Mark Traeger knows, more Russian-speaking Jewish immigrants from the former Soviet Union than any other member of Congress in the country. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries, who knew, y'all? Only in America. It's a beautiful thing. And so it's a beautiful thing. I've stood with the Jewish community during my service up until this point. I stand with the Jewish community today, and my promise to you is that I will stand with the Jewish community always and forever to make sure that we are addressing and crushing anti-Semitism to the ground, never to rise again, particularly in the midst of the disturbing increases that we've seen. And lastly, of course, we look forward to continuing to support the special relationship between the United States and Israel. I've had the opportunity now, I think 8 or 9 times, to visit Israel. On my 9th visit, the Israeli ambassador to the United States, a very good man, said, Hakeem, next time you show up, you should buy some property in Jerusalem. But it's a special relationship, anchored in shared values and shared strategic interests. But even beyond those values and strategic interests, I think it's the humane thing to do to ensure that in a world where there are something like 196 different countries, it's the humane thing to do to ensure that Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish and democratic state, an eternal homeland for the Jewish people. And that is a policy principle that I will always support. So I'm thankful for this opportunity to be with all of you today. I see that we've been joined by another Brooklyn homeboy, of course, the great leader of the Senate Democrats, the Honorable Chuck Schumer. And so I gather I'm now here as his warm-up act. But it's a wonderful warm-up act, and we're so thankful for Leader Schumer's strength during this very challenging time. I just wanted to present a congressional proclamation marking this occasion as we close, and I won't read the entirety of it, but just the very top. Whereas today we recognize the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York upon the occasion of its 50th anniversary. Whereas since 1976, JCRC-NY has worked to strengthen the values, interests, and security of the Jewish community throughout New York, combat anti-Semitism and other forms of hate at a time of surging violence directed at our Jewish brothers and sisters, foster meaningful coalitions amongst various faiths, cultures, and civic institutions, and promote the civil rights and civil liberties of all. Be it known, in view of the dedicated service and the many outstanding achievements of the JCRC of New York, upon the occasion of its historic 50th anniversary, I, Hakeem Jeffries, as a duly elected member, joined by the members of the United States House of Representatives on this first day of February 2026, join in honoring a truly outstanding organization. Congratulations on your accomplishments. May God bless you. May God bless the state of Israel. And may God continue to bless the United States of America.
We're taking one more after this. Tell me when you're done. Speaker, Mark, can you please come up? Great. Okay. Perfect. Yes. All right, everybody right here, please. Right here, 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. All right. Yep. Hey. Good. Thank you.
Good to see you. All right. Appreciate you. Mark, good to see you.
Yep, let's go. Thank you, Speaker.
David, congratulations. Amazing organization.
Thank you. Yes.
Where's Congressman Espaillat? Josh, please come up.
Adama? Adama? Adama?
Howard.
Can you call Adama?
Adama. Adama, can you come over here, please?
Howard, you want me to do Chuck now, right?
No.
No?
We're doing Espaillat. Then we're doing Chuck. I will, right after Espaillat. Congressman. Josh, you're on.
Hello, good morning. My name is Josh Obler, and I'm a member of the Executive Committee of JCRC New York, as well as being the co-chair of its Government Affairs Committee. It is now my pleasure to introduce Congressman Adriano Espaillat, representing New York's 13th District. Congressman Espaillat is the first Dominican American to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives, and his congressional district includes Harlem, Hamilton Heights, Washington Heights, Inwood, Marble Hill, and the Northwest Bronx. Congressman Espaillat was elected chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, which represents the largest body of Latino lawmakers at the federal government. It is now my distinct honor to bring to the podium a true friend of the Jewish community, Congressman Adriano Espaillat. And I have a question for you, Congressman. Given your long leadership in building strong ties between the Jewish and Latino communities, and your prominent role as co-chair of the Latino Jewish Caucus, including hosting Jewish community forums and supporting initiatives to counter anti-Semitism, how do you plan to continue strengthening protections for Jewish students and community members against rising hate crimes and anti-Semitism in Washington and on college campuses? Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. First, I want to obviously congratulate the JCRC on their 50th birthday. Congratulations. As was mentioned by Congressman Swazi, I first visited Israel with Michael Miller some 20 plus years ago. And the JCRC continues to play a pivotal role in educating many people across the city and the country about Israel and the challenges in Israel, as well as the Jewish faith. And so I commend you for 50 years of work. I think education is a key component to all of this. In fact, I bring you greetings from Washington Heights. And in the local high school there, in George Washington High School, the high school where Henry Kissinger attended and other Jewish luminaries attended, we have a pilot project on the Holocaust, because many students don't even know the name of the death camps, don't even know the magnitude, what the Holocaust, how horrible it was. And so this has been going on for several years now, and it's proved to be very effective. Education, I think, is key to all of this. You know, and Abraham Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. With it, you cannot fail. Without it, you cannot succeed. Public sentiment is everything. And at this crossroad in our nation, where you see a dramatic rise in anti-Semitism, where you see hate everywhere, where you see the pain inflicted by ICE, masked ICE agents that are anonymous, no first name, no last name, no shield number, shooting and slamming people to the floor in full view of the entire world. When you see this perfect storm hit our nation, public sentiment is everything. And we must continue to work with young people. We must not lose them. We have to go into the schools of the city and implement curriculums against hate, teaching them about the Holocaust and the horrible things that occurred during that period of history, so we can shape public sentiment and win the future. Without it, we'll lose the future. And so I ask you all, and there's several pieces of legislation. I could talk to you about the grant that our leader Jeffrey spoke about, the security grant. And that's so important. That's today. But the future is in the classrooms. And we cannot lose the future. And so, for someone that has in his district both Yeshiva University and Columbia University on the southern end, we must work tirelessly to win the hearts and minds of young people. And that begins by speaking the truth, the naked truth. As a young immigrant boy, I remember how impactful it was for me to see for the first time a survivor of the Holocaust. I went back home and I asked my mom. So this is so important that we don't just get caught up in the pressures of today and develop a clear path and strategy for tomorrow. And yes, I am a supporter of Israel. And we worked with the Elkanah Balbot family to get communications, and the Colombian government. Not nice guys, but they wanted to help communicate the hostage, Elkanah Balbot, and his Colombian wife. And they were successful in letting her know first that he was alive. And then, of course, they recently got together when he was released. And yes, we will continue to support the state of Israel and its right to defend itself. And I believe in this two-state solution. But first, Israel must be protected from any attack like the one perpetrated against it on that dreadful morning. But let's work towards the future, and let's work with our young people. I am afraid that we're losing. I must come here and tell you what I feel. A friend tells you not what you want to hear, but what he feels. And I am afraid for the public sentiment. We must all work day and night to ensure that we win that battle. That is everything. That is tomorrow. And I want to be a partner with you in that endeavor. God bless you all. Thank you for inviting me every year to this breakfast, and keep the faith. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Congressman. Good morning again. Thank you all. Thank you all for participating and staying. We have about 4 or 5. We only have about 4 or 5 more speakers, but it's my honor now to introduce the Democratic leader of the United States, Charles Schumer. For over 4 decades in public service, Senator Charles Schumer has brought a solid reputation as a true leader who finds common sense solutions to national issues as a tireless fighter for the people of New York. In 2022, Chuck was reelected by the people of New York to an unprecedented 5th term. As senator, Chuck has made it a hallmark of his career to protect the middle class and those working to reach it. He continues that mission every day as leader of the Senate Democratic Caucus. I'm so pleased to note that Senator Schumer has attended virtually every JCRC New York congressional breakfast since his election to the House in 1980. Please welcome our very good friend, the leader of the Democratic Caucus of the United States Senate, Chuck Schumer.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Well, good morning. Boker Tov. Great to be here. And of course, with our 50th anniversary, but the significance for me is that I've been just about at every breakfast from the beginning. And so when I present this proclamation, and I just got here, my guess is there have been a whole lot of proclamations, but I still want to do it given that significance. So let's take a picture and present this. And someone else I want to come up as I present this proclamation is Michael Miller. Thank you. Thank you. Toda rabah. Stay here. I have something more for you. Sit here. Sit here. Okay, so as I said, I was there with the JCRC in the earliest days when I first was as young, does anyone remember? Assemblyman. And representing a district that was filled with working class Jewish families like my own. My father was an exterminator. At that time, the Jewish community, and particularly people like in my district, really lacked an effective advocate in Albany and in Washington. And JCRC changed that. Look around this room today, filled with sort of the cream of elected officials and power brokers and community leaders throughout New York. So you have just about everyone here. So you should get a Yasher Koyach. Give yourselves a round of applause for making this organization the great organization that it is. So I want to recognize Mark Traeger. He does a great job. I want to recognize Ben Golub. I want to recognize David Moore. And again, someone who is not here, I'm sure, Malcolm Hoenlein. Remember when he was the head of JCRC? Michael was his understudy. And then Michael came and took over. And so first, before I talk about something with Michael, I do want to give you an update about what's happening in Congress. Like so many of you, I've been disgusted and alarmed by what's happening in Minnesota. ICE is terrorizing immigrants in their communities, harassing, abusing, fighting, even killing on the streets. Americans who are exercising their constitutional rights. It's excessive, it's unwarranted, and most of all, it's not coordinated with local law enforcement who knows what's going on the ground there. I'm proud this week. You probably read it in the New York Times, my negotiations with President Trump. It's on the front page today. I'm proud that we were able to get Trump and the Republicans to separate out ICE funding from the rest of the government funding. So we can have a real debate on ICE, but not hold up the rest of the government. And that's happening now, but there'll be more to come on that front. And while I'm on the subject of Homeland Security, I want to remind people of the integral role. This is a little history, but it's our 50th anniversary. So it's worth doing. That Michael Miller and JCRC played in the creation of the Nonprofit Security Grant Program. So important to protecting our yeshuls, our shtiblock, our yeshivas, Jewish community centers, and so many other institutions. Before we created NSGP, Jewish houses of worship and community organizations didn't have access to public funds for their security. But as everybody in this room remembers, there was a horrific spate of attacks against Jewish community centers and synagogues in the late 90s and the early 2000s. And now we're seeing echoes, more than echoes, we're seeing thunderous echoes of that ugly time in the present day. There have been so many recent anti-Semitic acts of violence, anti-Israel protests that cross the line in their language and tactics, and even violent attacks against Jews. This is an area I care deeply about as an elected official. As you know, I wrote a book, made the New York Times bestseller list, called Anti-Semitism in America, a warning. If you haven't read it, please do. It has the whole history of anti-Semitism. And it's really aimed at younger people. We hope to get it in all the schools. You know, when I went to school, we had to read the Diary of Anne Frank. Not anymore. So we're trying to get the schools to read this book. But it's an area I care about as a grandfather. I want my grandson to grow up in the world I did, where Jewish people could work hard and strive and prosper without being discriminated against in an overt way, the way it is happening now. And of course, so many of us, including myself, are descendants of Jews murdered during the Holocaust. In my book, I mention, listen to this statistic, 20% of Americans 18 to 29 agreed with the statement the Holocaust is a myth. There's this propaganda that we Jews perpetrated this thing to get sympathy and that what didn't exist. And then another 30% said they didn't even know about the Holocaust. That's half the young people not even knowing what happened to the greatest genocide ever. In other words, we have to do more. And the challenge will only grow more serious and as more Holocaust survivors, living witnesses to the atrocities of Nazism, pass away. So our task is twofold. We have to keep the light shining on anti-Semitism and calling it out. I do it all the time. I have a resolution on the floor of the Senate now to condemn Fuentes, that evil anti-Semite, who has gotten too much play by too many people, including Tucker Carlson. We condemn him as well. And we have to keep speaking out and speaking out. Now, let's go back to the security grant. In 2000, it didn't exist, but this man, Michael Miller, recognized the need for a federal program that would pay for security upgrades, security guards, and other measures to harden our Jewish institutions. However, there were legal challenges to giving federal funding to houses of worship. We all know about church and state. The Constitution clearly recognizes the separation of church and state. So Michael, Yiddish Kopf, anyone here knows what that means? To his everlasting credit, helped develop to fix this problem by broadening the universe of eligible institutions to all nonprofits. That's why it's called the Nonprofit Security Grant, the Nonprofit Security Grant Program. And Michael and I have worked so hard not only to get this passed, but to let Jewish institutions know that I'm glad to say Jewish institutions get a large proportion of that money. In fact, probably because we are so afflicted. We started off when I became majority leader. This was my baby, one of them, many. In 2021, it had 90 million. We doubled it to 180 million, increased it to 250 million in 2022, in 305 million in 2023. And after October 7th, that evil day, that horrible day, I was able to pass an emergency infusion of $400 million into that program. Many of your institutions are benefiting, and one of the things we switched, originally you couldn't do people. They said the Constitution didn't allow you the synagogue to hire a person with this money. So we said, okay, you can hire a security guard company. And that's what's happening now. So we even have personnel involved in this issue. So let me just say that we were also able to fight back against cuts elsewhere in the bill to ensure that this program continue. There were people who wanted to cut the program, but we beat it back. And I want to tell you, as long as I'm in the Senate, this program will continue to grow from strength to strength, and we won't let anyone attack it or undo it. Plain and simple. So, Michael, stand up. He's a modest fellow, so I have to, just let's give him one more round of applause. Our synagogues, our Jewish institutions are safer because of this man. Okay. You can go sit down and enjoy yourself now. I'm also sponsor of the Pray Safe Act, and that would create a federal database and clearinghouse for the best security practices, because a lot of our smaller houses of worship are not aware of these grants and how to deal with them. So that act we will try to get passed this year. It's a very important act, again, to help it work. Let me tell you, we don't not only deliver security funding to our Jewish institutions, but much more. During the pandemic, when so many of our shuls and Jewish institutions didn't have any money and were ready to close, I made sure that the payroll protection program went to religious institutions, and it saved thousands of them that are in existence today. So we try to get money in every way that we can get that done. We also expanded the child tax credit. Remember that? Originally, it was limited to three families with 3 children. Rabbi Niederman came over to me, you know, from the Satmar. He said, no one has just 3 children. So we made it for unlimited number of children, and I've been told by our leaders that it saved yeshiva after yeshiva after yeshiva who weren't getting the tuition that they needed. So that's another thing we've been able to do. Now, but I have many jobs as majority leader, as the first Jewish majority leader ever, and one is to fight for aid to Israel, all the aid that Israel needs. I will continue to fight for it. And we delivered more security assistance to Israel, our ally, under my leadership than ever before. We will keep doing that, everybody. It is so important. I will always fight to give Israel what it needs and to protect itself from the many in that difficult region who want to wipe Israel off the face of the map. We have to do everything to do that. We have to do everything to ensure that the delicate ceasefire secured last year paves the way to lasting peace, where people can live side by side, as many have mentioned, in a two-state solution. Last week, we celebrated the return of the body of Ron Gvili, the last Israeli hostage, home. I went to Israel on October 10th. I felt I had to go. I was the first elected official to go. I met with those hostage families who were in agony because their brothers and sisters and husbands and wives and children had been taken away. I'll never forget it. Never forget it. And now that Gavili's returned, all of the families, because they were so unified, at least have an ability to have some peace. But what happened was just disgusting. They fought so bravely and tirelessly for the return, and they are going to continue. I've talked to them many times, and they're going to continue to fight for Israel because they, more than anyone, know how important protecting the security of Israel against the evil Hamas and so many others is. In conclusion, I'd like to say this. Some of you know about my dad. He was a minor hero in World War II, but he struggled. He had his junky little exterminating business. He hated it. He passed away 2-3 years ago, but he's still standing here next to me with lessons. And he taught me 2 lessons, above all. And he's still teaching me them, even though he's there, up there. First, he said, always help people who need help. That's what our Talmud teaches us. It's so important to do, and that's why I chose the profession that I did. I could have been a big shot lawyer or something like that, but why? That's why I ran for the assembly at age 23 and won. But the second thing he said is this. He said, if you're doing something important, look in your heart. Make sure it's the right thing to do. And once you're certain and you pray on it, make that is the right thing to do, persist, 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 and God will reward you and you will succeed. To my friends in the Jewish community, we will persist and persist and persist to fight for Israel, to fight for anti-Semitism, and we will not rest till we succeed. Hatzlacha to all of you. God bless JCRC. God bless the United States of America. Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Thank you. You're the best. Where are we going? Okay? Thank you, everybody. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Another 50 years. We'll all be here for it. Yes, Hashem. Chuck? Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Howard. Oh, you get this.
Folks, if we could just please bear with us. We have a few more speakers also. Remember, let's be courteous. We have very distinguished speakers and officials. I want to just give a quick shout out very quickly and my apologies because we're trying to move the program, to the local officials, state and local. Just quick shout outs, quick acknowledgments. Senator Gustavo Rivera from the Bronx. Senator Leroy Comrie from Queens. Senator John Liu from Queens. Assemblymember Jake Blumenkrantz from Nassau County. Assemblymember Alicia Hyman from Queens. Assemblymember Lorinda Hooks, Queens. Assemblymember Andy Hevesy, Queens. Assemblymember Latrice Walker, Brooklyn. Assemblymember Jennifer Rajkumar, Queens. Assemblymember Grace Lee, Manhattan. Assemblymember Michael Lasher, Manhattan. Assemblymember Alex Boris, Manhattan. Assemblymember Tony Simone, Manhattan. Assemblymember Jeffrey Dinowitz, Bronx. Assemblymember Amarita Torres, Bronx. New York City Council Member Lynn Shulman, Queens. City Council Member Virginia Maloney, Manhattan. I was going to say a Assembly member, but now Council Member Harvey Epstein, Manhattan. The Chair of the Jewish Caucus, Councilmember Eric Dinowitz, Bronx. Councilmember Justin Sanchez, Bronx. Councilmember Gail Brewer, Manhattan. Councilmember Mercedes Narcisse, Brooklyn. Councilmember Julie Wan, Queens. We have also Eva Weiner Rosen from Governor Hochul's team. Allison Spindell, New York Attorney General Tish James' team. Josh Binderman from the Mayor's Office. Thank you, Josh. Eli Slavin, Congressmember Yvette Clark. Pincus Hyken, Comptroller's Office. Deanna Logan, Mayor's Office, Criminal Justice. Mention Hindi Pupko, Vice President, UJ Federation. Dan Rosenthal, Vice President, UJ Federation. Josh Kramer, AJC. Avi Posner, Stand With Us. Jason Capel, Northeast Director, APAC. Patty Lubin, Senator Gillibrand. Michael Cohen, Auschwitz Foundation. Adina, Executive Director, Yafed. Elliot Horschheimer, Westchester Jewish Council. Herb Block. Avi Weinberg. Scott Richmond, ADL. Let the show continue. Folks, please bear with us. Next speaker to introduce the Congress members.
God, it got so quiet. This is impressive. I think it's still morning, so I'll say good morning. I'm Susie Jaffe, and I'm a proud member of JCRC of New York. I have the honor of introducing Congressman Jerry Nadler, my congressman, who represents New York's 12th Congressional District and whose distinguished career has spanned more than 3 decades in the House. First elected in 1992, Congress Nadler has been a steadfast advocate for civil rights, constitutional protections, and for his devoted constituents. Throughout his long tenure, he has earned a reputation as a passionate defender of democratic institutions, individual freedoms, tackling complex issues from equality under the law to immigration reform. I should also mention that he was vital in getting us in New York $20 billion in federal funds to rebuild downtown. This is his 17th term in a career filled with dedication and purpose. Indeed, Congressman Nadler has served with distinction, including as chair and then ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee. This will be the congressman's final term in office. His recent decision to retire reflects a personal belief in the importance of generational renewal within public service, even as he leaves behind a legacy of advocacy and leadership. So please join me in thanking Congressman Nadler for his many, many years of distinguished service. I too have a question. Congressman Nadler, looking back on your more than 3 decades in Congress, what do you consider your most significant contribution to American democracy and civil rights? And how do you hope that legacy will influence future generations of lawmakers?
Well, first of all, thank you to JCRC. And it was not mentioned that I was elected to the Assembly in 1976, and I have attended every single one of these breakfasts since their inception. It's been an honor over the past decades to regularly address these events, and with this likely being my last JCRC congressional district, at least as a congressman, I'm particularly grateful for your leadership and all that we've accomplished over the past many years together. While there is much left to do in my final year, I do want to acknowledge that while I may no longer be your congressman in a year's time, I will be forever your ally and an engaged member of our shared and cherished New York Jewish community. Before I talk about my work in Congress on civil rights and strengthening democracy, I want to offer a few thoughts about some of the challenges facing the Jewish community today. Last year, I told you that these are serious and difficult times for the Jewish people. While I am heartened that the ceasefire in Gaza has held thus far, and I am grateful that all the hostages have now returned home, I fear the region is far from stable, and there is much more work to be done to prevent future bloodshed. I also want to affirm the importance of Israel's security. We all saw Israel's vulnerabilities on October 7th, and the importance of shared security programs like Iron Dome and David Sling in the ensuing months and years. That is why in the past weeks, I have again voted in favor of appropriations bills that provide assistance for these critical programs and affirm the importance of U.S.-Israel cooperation on defensive technologies. I am also deeply concerned by the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. While some may claim that sufficient assistance is reaching the people of Gaza, my office has been in direct contact with aid organizations that have workers on the ground. The evidence they provide shows a very different story, one of a dire situation in need of increased food, medical, and other humanitarian assistance. It's incumbent upon all of us to ensure that the aid needed for the people of Gaza is provided, and that those with expertise can execute their mission unimpeded. On the West Bank, I'm sad to report the situation has significantly degraded in the last year. We have seen ongoing violent settler attacks, including less than 3 months ago, a group of armed settlers, some in IDF uniforms, shooting live fire at a group of American rabbis, including some from our community, like Rabbi Sarah Reines of Temple Emmanuel. That's why I am proud that my West Bank Violence Prevention Act, which seeks to prevent these very acts and punish those that take part in them, has 120 co-sponsors in the House and nearly 30 co-sponsors in the Senate, including our Senators Schumer and Gillibrand. I hope all of my colleagues in the New York delegation will join me in supporting this important legislation. Ultimately, as I shared last year, for many of these issues on the West Bank and in Gaza to be fully resolved, there must be a commitment on the part of the parties and the international community to a two-state solution. Although the prospect of a two-state solution is certainly not the intention of the current Israeli government, I remain steadfast in my belief that this is the key to achieving long-term peace in the region. While peace may seem as far away as ever, I continue to believe deeply in a Jewish and democratic Israel, and the two-state solution has always been, from the Peel Commission report in 1937 to the 1947 UN resolution authorizing the establishment of Israel and of a Palestinian state, and remains today the only way to ensure Israel's future. There is no question that we have seen a continuation in the rise of anti-Semitism this past year. It is more dangerous for Jews today, arguably, than it has been at any time since the end of the Holocaust. That is why, in the face of this danger, I am distraught by the weaponization of anti-Semitism by the Trump administration for partisan political gain. That is why I've introduced the Anti-Semitism Response and Prevention Act, which provides a comprehensive and positive vision for fighting anti-Semitism that both protects Jews and free speech rights at the same time. I hope it is something we can all support. Lastly, I want to mention important bipartisan legislation that I am helping to lead in the House.
The Holocaust Expropriated Art Recovery Act, or the HERE Act, would allow for Holocaust victims and their descendants to finally have their day in court for a fair and just opportunity to recover art stolen from them. I am pleased that this bill has already passed the Senate, and as the lead Democrat on the bill, I am working with our leadership, hopefully to soon pass it in the House as well. Turning now to the question you asked, I'm of course humbled at the thought that my legacy will influence future generations of lawmakers. But looking back on my career in Congress, I hope that I have served as a model for legislation to delve into the issues, take the job seriously, and stay true to their principles. I am proud that I work to provide justice to victims of the September 11th attacks and other victims of terrorism. The Zadroga Act that I introduced established the World Trade Center Health Program to guarantee free health care to victims of the aerial toxins produced by the collapse of the World Trade Center. It is now funded through 2090. I am proud that I opposed the Iraq War. I am proud that I opposed President Bush's Patriot Act in 2008, which in the name of opposing terrorism squashed civil liberties. I am proud that 7 years later, in 2015, I was able to lead a bipartisan coalition that softened those provisions and made them much less injurious to civil liberties. And I am proud that I supported President Obama's Iran nuclear deal. Under that agreement, Iran was limited to 2% enriched uranium, the level you use for medical isotopes. Iran sold 600 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium to Russia. And we had inspectors in all the enrichment plants who enforced the deal. If President Bush had not stupidly renounced the deal, we would not now be worried about Iran's nuclear potential. When you're a junior member of a committee, that means sitting at the very end of the dais, listening to hours of testimony before it is finally your turn to speak. This gave me the opportunity to learn from my colleagues and to become informed about all of the issues facing the Judiciary Committee. And over time, I rose in seniority until I became the chairman in 2019. Looking back on my time holding the gavel, I am most proud that I was able to advance bills to preserve the rule of law and to provide for a more just society that respects the civil rights and civil liberties of all Americans. Of course, what people remember most was our efforts to hold Donald Trump accountable for his various abuses of power, culminating in 2 historic impeachments. But we also accomplished many other things that were no less important. As the epidemic of gun violence rages on, we advanced historic legislation to keep Americans safe in their communities, leading to enactment of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first significant gun safety legislation enacted in a generation. When the Supreme Court threatened to undermine protections for same-sex marriage, we enshrined marriage equality in the law with passage of my bill, the Respect for Marriage Act. We also enacted legislation prohibiting forced arbitration in sexual assault and sexual harassment cases so that all survivors would have their day in court. Some of the work I undertook remains unfinished, but even advancing these bills through the House was a historic achievement and laid the groundwork for future lawmakers to build on these successes. For example, when the nation watched in horror as George Floyd was brutalized by police, we passed legislation to hold law enforcement accountable, while also working to ensure that our communities have the tools and resources to keep our citizens safe. We now have vital work to do in protecting our Gestapo from ICE agents who act like a Gestapo in terrorizing our communities. We also passed bills to repair our broken immigration system, including legislation to protect dreamers, but there is much more work to do. I am proud I opposed the Retrogressive Immigration Act of 1996, which authorized expedited removal, which ICE is now using to devastating effect. I am also proud we took steps to protect the fundamental right to vote by passing legislation named after my beloved colleague, John Lewis. We also work to protect all people from marginalized communities, whether they be people of color, the LGBTQ community, or people with disabilities. I am proud that I work to provide justice to victims of I said that already. And we work to preserve access to justice in the federal courts, to protect consumers from corporate abuses, lower prescription drug prices, and preserve a strong intellectual property system to promote innovation and drive economic growth. The committee also shined a light on critical issues, such as threats to reproductive freedom and bodily autonomy, the need for further criminal justice reform, and ending mass incarceration, the ethics crisis at the Supreme Court, and proposals to strengthen our antitrust laws to preserve and promote healthy competition in the marketplace. As I reflect on my past decades of public service representing the people of New York, I'm struck by how much is left to do. Whether in dealing with wealth inequality and treatment of the poor, rising healthcare costs and the need for more affordable housing, defending our democracy right now against an administration that is showing all the signs of incipient fascism, and making sure our country is welcoming to the stranger in our midst, or fighting back against anti-Semitism and working for peace in Israel. In all of that and more, I've been honored to be your partner in this work. Together we have and we will continue to work to bring about a better future for our children, for the Jewish people here in Israel and around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman.
Good morning, actually almost afternoon. I am Judy Baum, and I'm co-chair of the JCRC New York Government Affairs with my JCRC husband, Josh Obeler, who's over there. Hi, Josh. It is now my honor to introduce Congresswoman Laura Gillen, representing the 4th Congressional District in Nassau County's South Shore, where I grew up. Thank you, Gil. Representative Gillen serves on the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committees and sits on the Subcommittee on Highways and Transit. So any traffic on the LAE, she's your woman. She's also on the House Science, Space, and Technology Committee. I am proud to note that the Congresswoman is a true fighter for her constituents. In 2017, Congressman Gillen became the first Democrat to be elected Hempstead Town Supervisor in 112 years. She took direct aim at waste and corruption and made the town government more accessible, transparent, and accountable to taxpayers. It is now my great pleasure to introduce my friend, Congressmember Laura Gillen, a true ally to the Jewish people of New York and to the state of Israel. Okay, Congressmember Gillen, or Laura, you recently participated in a Jewish community leadership roundtable with the Orthodox Union Advocacy Center to discuss synagogue security and combating anti-Semitism. Is that feedback? Okay, good. Indeed, your public statements signal strong support for Israel and stronger protections against hatred. Can you share what specific federal policies you're prioritizing to expand security funding for Jewish institutions, to support Jewish students on campus, and to address rising anti-Semitism both locally and nationally? Laura.
Thank you. Well, I'll say good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. Congratulations to JCRC on 50 years of incredible work. I'm so glad to be with you. I represent probably one of the largest Jewish constituencies of any congressional district in the United States. And I'm proud to be a strong voice for the continuation of relationships between U.S. and Israel and fighting anti-Semitism in the House of Representatives. You know, last year when I was here, we were praying and advocating for the return of the hostages. And I'm so grateful that that is not something that we have to do anymore. But we've seen, I thought perhaps when the hostages came home and the conflict calmed down, we would see a decline in hate speech and anti-Semitism. But unfortunately, the events we've seen unfold over the past year have shown that that is not true. And we've only seen an increase in anti-Semitism. I've heard from many people in my district about concerns about securities for synagogues, for all houses of worship, and even for religious schools and institutions. I was just visiting the Hebrew Academy of Long Beach, which is actually in Woodmere, but that's a whole other story, and just talking to leaders there about the security threats they face as a school, a religious-oriented school, and how we can expand the nonprofit security grant program to make sure that our houses of worship and our schools have the security that they need. I did advocate, I joined a bipartisan letter to advocate, several people have mentioned today, the increase in funding for nonprofit security grants. It's certainly something that is needed and we will continue pushing for in Congress. And as the leader said, we will certainly be voting for that if it comes before us in the House floor. Also expanding the uses of what those grant funds can be used for. One of the teachers said, there are things in there that you wouldn't think of, like locks on the door. Unfortunately, we've seen school shootings rampant across the United States. So now having a special lock on every classroom door is something that should be incorporated into that nonprofit security funding. Again, the support is bipartisan. I've joined my colleague, he was here earlier, Mike Lawler, in the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. I've joined him also on calling for sanctions against Iran for being the leading state sponsor of terrorism, and we will continue this work. I'm also a member of the Anti-Semitism Task Force and the Abraham Accords Caucus, which is what I believe is one of the key ways forward. I'm also a sponsor with Josh Gottheimer of the HEAL Act, which talks about incorporating Holocaust education into classrooms. But I think really when I went and spoke with people after I went to Israel to see what was going on with the situation with the hostages, this was in the summer before they'd been released, the Democrats also wanted to insist on finding out what was going on with aid into Gaza to see what the real situation was. And through that time, I got to talk to a lot of people, and I came back and I went and spoke throughout my district, through synagogues and other places, about what I saw and what I learned in Israel. And I got a lot of interest in talking about the way forward. And I think the way forward is with children. When I was in Israel, I was surprised that Arab Israelis and Jewish Israelis many times don't go to the same schools. I understand for religious reasons sometimes that's difficult, but I think making sure our children come together is the way we can start to find peace in that region. I think the Abraham Accords is a way we can move forward to find peace and stability in that region. And I can tell you from my outreach with faith leaders, when we do nonprofit security grant trainings, we do them for synagogues, but we also invite Christian houses of worship, mosques to these, and bringing these faith leaders together to try to increase and enhance the dialogue is the way we will move forward and try to tone down the volume of hate in this country. And so that is something that I'm 100% committed to, and I look forward to keeping that strong advocate for Israel and combating anti-Semitism in the House of Representatives. So thank you all. And I do have, I will not read it, I can read the room. I do have a Congressional Certificate of Recognition for JCRC. Congratulations on 50 years. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. Are we going to do a picture
We
right
do-
here, or right in front of the mic?
No, we got to do in front of the banner. Good?
I'm now sorry. That's not in my district, but it's very close by. Swazi.
Kayla? Thank you.
Thank you.
She mentioned, talked about subjects that no one else mentioned.
Oh, you could tell her.
You mentioned different things that a lot of people didn't cover. Really spectacular. Thank you, Judy. Well done.
Very good to see you. All right.
We will. Absolutely. I gave it to you. Yes, absolutely. We're not. You're kidding. No, we're not. Brad, please go up. Well, I am.
Okay, guys, one more to go. I'd like to say we're probably saving the best for last. Good morning, my name is Brad Korn. I'm a proud board member of the JCRC, finishing up my second term. It's my pleasure to introduce, obviously a very patient man, Congressman George Latimer, who serves the 16th Congressional District covering the Bronx and Westchester. Congressman Latimer has an outstanding career of public service, serving in all levels of government from local, state, and before getting elected to Congress was Westchester County Executive. The Congressman serves on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the Small Business Committee to strengthen our economy, support small business, and advance thoughtful foreign policy. Before I call him up, I'm going to give him a question. Congressman Latimer, given your commitment to supporting local communities and small businesses, how are you using your role in Congress to ensure that Jewish organizations and institutions have the resources and security and federal support they need to thrive while addressing broader community needs like education, housing, and economic opportunity? I call up Congressman Latimer. Thank you again for your patience.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, friends, just when you thought you'd run out of congressmen, you got one more to go. Unless we redistrict. Did we redistrict this? No, okay, I'm in. I'm very pleased to be with you here again in my second year. Freshmen, when they said that they were going to save the best for last, what they really meant was they were going to save the oldest freshman for last. That's my distinction at the age of 72 years old in my second year in Congress. I will be short because the whole program has gone through, but I want to congratulate, as everyone else has, the work that JCRC has done over these 50 years. It's really impressive. And particularly, I want to shout out not only Mark and David, but my friend Ben Golub. We are neighbors. He's a few blocks down the road from me, but we've known each other talking about backyard issues in the hometown. But I've seen Ben in his leadership role along with the rest of the team. Ben and David and Mark, outstanding work. And for whatever's left in the room, we give you congratulations. Let me also say that I too have a proclamation, but I'm going to do it differently. Not going to do it here. I'd like to have a presentation in Westchester County, my home, way up in the north. And maybe next week, when Elliot Forsheimer and WJC is having a big celebration, we'll be able to honor JCRC at that event, and then I can give out that proclamation then. But gentlemen, you've deserved it, and thank you for what you've done. And let me also shout out, as Chuck Schumer did, Mike Miller. Mike, back in the day, when Judy Rapfogel was a key person in the House, in the Assembly, I should say, and I served there. Mike led a delegation of us to Israel, an important trip back in 2006, and I thank you, Mike, for your leadership all these years as well. I saw many of my colleagues who are not here anymore that I served with in the state Senate, Brad Hoylman, Sigel, and in the Assembly, Jeff Dinowitz, and Linda Rosenthal, and so many others. And they've all done a good job. I know that they all don't get a chance to speak, But let me tell you, from having served in the state assembly and having served in the state senate, what they do is important. When you worry about the definition of anti-Semitism and what happens in a city or a state, they are the people that can fight for you at the state level to make sure that you get the protections you deserve. So do not underestimate the value of your assembly members and your state senators. And even if they're not in the room, give them a round of applause. They deserve it. And I also want to thank Rabbi Mark Schneier, who's a friend of long standing, for being in his house. It's always great to be welcomed here. The question that I was given has been answered already. Laura Gillen gave an excellent answer to it, as did Leader Jeffries. The commitment to the resources for synagogue security is essential. I would only be gilding the lily if I were to give you another half an hour on that topic. But it is important to note that it does have bipartisan support. That is good news. Very little in Washington has bipartisan support these days. So consider it a plus that we see this in that light. But the second half of the question that talks about housing and education, so many other priorities, those priorities are not being addressed in Washington today. We passed in the summertime the big, beautiful, ugly bill, and that cut health care, and it cut housing, and it cut education, and we need a reversal of policies if we want to be honest with ourselves. If we want to invest in education and housing and all of those different priorities, in addition to the security needs that we have, then we need to rethink what we're trying to do. And I would argue, as a Roman Catholic, let's look at the spirit of Tikkun Olam. How do we repair the world? We don't repair it with cuts. We don't repair it with insurrectionist-style policing. We do it by understanding the humanity of each of us. And those of us who are Jewish and those of us who are not Jewish, that we are still brothers and sisters. And on that basis do we wipe out anti-Semitism at the same time that we deal with racism and sexism and all of the other isms that are making this country suffer. Let me just close by saying that, thank you. I'm trying to keep it fast. I get it. Got to go fast, George. I want to close by saying that 3 years ago, on a day like today, early February of 2023, I was more worried about the Beeline bus system of Westchester County. I was worried about sewer treatment and the Yonkers and the New Rochelle treatment plants and the Westchester County Airport and how we were getting vaccines to fight COVID. That was my job as county executive, which I had for ultimately 7 years. But it was in this month 3 years ago that some friends of mine, including some friends in this room, came to me and said, George, we know that you're planning at the end of your term, because I put in 2-term limit as a county executive. I drafted the bill, it was passed. Who do you know term limits themselves? And I said, 8 years is enough for an executive, county executive, let's go. And they said, George, we don't want you to leave. And I said, I promised my family that this would be it. I turned 70 and I'm going to wrap it up. He says, you got to run for Congress. I never had aspiration. I wish my friends who I just shouted out, Brad Hoyle and I were seatmates in the Senate. I never once said to Brad, gee, Brad, I can't wait to go to Washington. Jeff Dinowitz, it would be so cool if I get to be a congressman and go last at the JCRC breakfast, you know. They convinced me, and I was a very reluctant bride, as my friend Jason Capel has heard the phrase. I was a very reluctant bride to run for Congress in the primary of 2024 in Westchester County. It was a very difficult primary. It was a primary that I didn't personally need to have because of my desire for what I thought I needed to accomplish in my life, but I realized that there were important issues at play. And even if I would be a junior member in Congress, and probably only for a short period of time, I needed to stand up for that principle. I went through a tough campaign. I was hassled in ways that I was never hassled before in my prior 17 races. And the respect that I had gained in Westchester was what got me through that. And it got me through it in a way that allowed me to stand and say, I am progressive. I support a woman's right to choose. I support LGBTQ rights. I support renewable energy. I support affordable housing. I support DEI. I support all of those things, and I support the state of Israel.
on. We have more people coming over for the photo.
Thank you.
See what you get going, Wes? You get a big photo op.
I get a big photo op.
You get a big photo op.
How are you, sir?
We're going to get cozy up here.
This is why supermodels get all that money, man. This is tough work.
Can we go a little bit? David, can you
everyone
squeeze in a
move
little?
towards,
Squeeze in.
Mark. Mark, can you move down to your, move down.
Don't fall off the stage,
Yeah, I was
though.
going to say,
Don't
there's
fall off the stage. Sideways, everyone, sideways.
Oh, one more. This is the best way to get out.
Okay. Thank you.
Your voice is so
Yeah, we need your help on the internet.
Folks, just going to close out the program. Shh. Just 30 seconds. Also want to acknowledge we've been joined by a fellow New York Knicks fan, the New York City Public Advocate, Jumaane Williams. Thank you, Public Advocate, for being here. Go Knicks. I want to just say thank you to all the members of Congress. By the way, good friend of mine and good friend of our community, Congressman Richie Torres is under the weather, and we want to wish him a speedy recovery. He was going to be here this morning, but he has a very strong cold. We wish him well. And also, Congressmember Grace Meng has a family emergency, and we pray for her family to be healthy as well. So we want to give them our well wishes. I want to thank all the members of Congress, all the elected officials, diplomats, and good friends who joined us this morning. We're indebted to our sponsors, Craig Newmark Philanthropies, Uber, Kassir, UJ Federation of New York, for making this event possible. I want to also note this document I'm holding up, the communal priorities. Please take it home and read it and review it. It represents the views and priorities of the vast majority of the Jewish community of New York. When you speak to our elected officials, please refer to it. Also, can every single member of the JCRC New York board please stand and rise? Well, as everyone's already standing, both past and present. Let's give it up to the JCRC New York board. Thank you for your leadership. I want to thank the 50th Anniversary Advisory Committee. Don't we have a cool 50th logo, co-chaired by Suzanne Doft and Craig Unterberg? Also, to the incredible JCRC New York staff, Howard Pollack, Kayla Aaron, Marcy Fishman, Jen Glick, David Mauchman, Jill Mendelson, Mark Wolf, Ethan Lustigo-Grably, our interns, Ezra and Joel. And I want to thank the assistants of our great friends from UJA, Anna Bessendorf, Margot, Dan, and Abby. Folks, thank you for making this breakfast possible. Upward and onward for the Jewish community in New York. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you. Yes, I'm just going to get my stuff. Give me 1 second. Sure.